Have you ever felt like you don't have a purpose in life? Ask yourself if this is it? This is the life I have? Do I have to accept it like this? Like something is missing, but you can't quite see how it would be to live it differently. Or maybe you already know your purpose deep inside, but somehow there's still something holding you back from truly living it. Welcome to Living Spiritual Greatness. I'm your host, May Wenger, and I want to invite you on a journey to finding and living your purpose. Knowing and following our inner calling gives our lives meaning and clarity, but most of all, it gives us strength and a true reason to live. Come join me in this movement to make this world more purposeful by letting go of our fears, old patterns, attachments, and resistance, and stepping into our real inner truth. Enjoy today's show. Yay! Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. I'm so happy and joyful for my guest today. I hope I'm saying it correctly, Marita Rahlenbeck.
Rahlenbeck.
Yes. Oh, sorry, Rahlenbeck. Yes. Perfect. Thank you for being here. Okay, I don't know why I got to Rahlenbeck. I think, because I have a friend that's their last name, so maybe I just confused you. Do you want to, for starters, because I've known you and I followed you, I think already for 2 years, or 1.5 years, something like that, because I know some of my viewers know her because she's also been here for an interview, introduced us back then. But
Yeah.
For those of our viewers that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, what your passion is.
Well, my name is Marita, and I live in the United States, in the Midwest, Minneapolis, actually, Minnesota. And I have been on my spiritual journey for, it feels like forever. At least 30 years, something like that. And really big on the alternative way of living, the holistic way of looking at life and health and wealth and all of that. And it's been a natural evolution as to, I think the awakening process, if you will, is a natural evolution, like once you're ready. And so it's just naturally taken my business. I mean, the business just happened. And so I was thinking about that today. I don't know why, but the different iterations of the business, as you know, as I have evolved, and so has it, like you go through a rebrand. And I love working with women, particularly, probably because they're more receptive. I find that the men that I work with, they're very heart, which is that new that we're walking into right now, is the heart opening of the divine masculine. But I love working with them on their path, but also not just the woo woo, the high level stuff, but also the real practical, the real, like, you need to eat clean food, the real practical and how it impacts the more intangible, if you will. So it's like I can't hardly pull apart who I am as a human and who I am as a spiritual mentor, or as a mentor in any holistic life. It's all together. It's one big me. So is that helpful?
Oh, definitely, and I like that you're saying that, because that's also one of the things that I've realized on my own spiritual path, because mine started while I was not mine started, but got intense while I was working in the corporate life. And I remember having that inner struggle, that on one hand, I had this very spiritual side that was learning, back then I was learning shamanic studies and, getting all into energy work and all those things. But then on the other hand, I had I always call it very 3D dimensional office job with office problems, and things like that. And And I remember struggling with that. And it was so beautiful at one point, because I think a friend of mine told me, it's like, but you're you always. You're always you. Even your spiritual you is in the office, the same as the office me is also in my spiritual work. And
Yes.
that sort of took away all the stress, because I felt like I had to be someone else in the different spots and then just be me at every moment, right?
Yes. And that's something I went through a phase where um, I would talk about that a lot. And I would say, and it's still relevant, that like the mindset that the employee has, and I'm not saying, you know, if you are an employee, I'm not saying you have this, but as a whole, I found, because when I was an employee, it was like the minute I walked into that office, I had to turn the big bulk of who I was off because of the expectations of the environment, or I was looked at as weird, or um, I brought my own lunch and they thought I brought my own lunch and they thought I was weird. Instead of smoking on a coffee break, I don't drink coffee, so I'm not going to drink coffee. I'm not going to go have a cigarette. But I walked around the building, and that was weird. I mean, and it really bothered me. It's like I can't even be me without being criticized. And it's not even like I was doing something weird, you know. um, I yeah, it was like, stop leaving the bulk, the real you at the door of wherever you're exiting or entering. Take all of you with, because all of you is relevant. And that's, I think,
Yeah.
why I have
And
such a holistic view of life. It's like we are an entire being, and we have to stop cutting ourselves off.
how was it for you? Because in my case, it was that when I stopped cutting myself off, I wouldn't meet people that would find me weird anymore. You know what I mean? It's sort of like
Yeah,
the moment I was in peace with myself, I was attracting people that were okay with me as well.
right. That's also a very good observation, that when you really embody who you are, and sometimes you don't even know what that means,
Mm-hmm.
but just to kind of, you know who you're not, right? So if you know who you're not, then just sit with that knowing. And you're right, then you become somebody different. So not that you're different, your energies changes. So you can be more open to who you're attracting into your life.
Mm-hmm. Marita, how would you say, no, let's start with that one. Have you always known your purpose?
No, I can't say that I know.
How was that for you? Like, how did you get started into this life, and when did the moment come where you decided you have to do something about that? Or was it a conscious decision, I have to find my purpose? Or did you just finally realize, oh my God, my purpose is this and this, and now I want to follow that? Or
No,
what was
I
that?
work with a lot of people who they're on that, like they have been so conditioned to being told what to do and how to do it, that the
Mm-hmm.
whole idea of being able to make a choice is not even an idea for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
so conditioned to being
Oh,
told
yes.
how to do and how to behave and how to think and how to, and I can't even relate to that anymore. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't go on this what's my purpose. That was not my question. My question had to do around my marriage was breaking up, and well, it was dead. You know how when something dies, you got to finally admit that it's dead and walk away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because I was so entrenched in um, the religious philosophy of you don't do that, my struggle
Mm-hmm.
that my struggle was, okay, I was up in front of all these witnesses and I got married to this man and we said, what God has put together, let no man put asunder. And here it's asunder, like, so my quandary was really all about that. Like, if my life is a mess and this is what I believed, what do I do with that? And so I started on the quest of that. I started on the quest of, well, what else is there? Like, there's got to be more out there than this, what I now see as a very sheltered view of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly remember going to the library and I remember it was like a stack of 24 books. I should have had a shopping bag. And they were on all different kinds of topics. And now, then I didn't consciously know what I was doing, but that was the beginning of my awakening. It was like, I just need some different viewpoint. But I didn't go into the library saying, I don't know what the hell I was thinking, to be honest. I just needed something, And so that was my question. Like, how can I remedy this life situation within myself, within the belief system that I had been raised with? And through that, it just became an easy transition into, I would have never used the word purpose ever.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it became, is like on the quest for, and as that became obvious, and as I found answers for me, I began teaching. So it was a very natural kind of evolution within myself.
Yeah. Yeah, because usually when it's something happening to us that shatters our belief system, basically, and that's when we start looking for an answer, right? On
Yeah.
how to alleviate it for ourselves and then to make a true change in that. How was it for you to go through, because you were also saying earlier that like people were looking at you like you were weird, and like all those, because those are like also our beliefs, right? That we have, that, like you said, all the input from other people, how we're supposed to be in this planet, and how we change when we go into our job. How was the transition for you to change from having all that influence and then transitioning to being your true graceful self?
Well, first of all, I love the word graceful. Thank you. We'll reveal that later on. I think it was really just, it was natural. Because I was really fed up. And my last job was very much, I'm just realizing this now, you guys. My last job was a privately held company that was very much, oh my word, you guys, was very much steeped in religious dogma. And they were breaking all kinds of laws by pushing it on their employees. Oh my God, the stuff they did was like really illegal. But I'm just realizing that now. So it was almost like a repeat. So that was literally, it was in 2004. It was about 10 years after. A little bit less. Anyway, the point is, I'm literally showing an aha in real time that my last job was very similar to the message or whatever was very similar to, but it was coming from outside. Mm-hmm. This is so cool. This is what I do with my clients. I'm doing it to myself. Okay, so within the breakup of my marriage, that struggle was from within, right? That was my struggling, my needing to reconcile my belief system with what was happening on the outside, what was happening at my office, where they all thought I was weird because I brought my own food, because I didn't go to the fast food places like that, you know, just stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything I did was a very holistic, and they all thought I was like crazy because I didn't live like they did. So that was coming the opposite. That now the struggle was they were like not trying, but they were inflicting their belief system upon me, which I had already broken free of, but I had found myself trapped in it again. That's so amazing.
Wow, so interesting.
Yeah.
So, but how was it for you to get out of it? Like how to really get the strength? Because I bet, not I bet, but I think that the decision to say, I'm not giving into this. I'm not gonna, join you guys in your way of, dogmatic belief
Right.
system. Um, because because you have the peer pressure as well, especially
Yeah.
like in the jobs, you always have the peer pressure. On the other hand, you also want to belong. How did you get the strength to say, okay, I'm done. I don't want to. I'm not doing this.
Well, honestly, the universe gave me the universe gave me a push in that I was doing a company errand and I had a car accident. So it was all workers' comp, and that was a whole big nightmare. But basically, it was literally like, you're so done, you know? And looking back, of course, it was a gift. Like, what the hell are you thinking? Get out of there, you know? So it was ugly, and it was literally painful, physically painful. But that's what the universe did, is like, you're not supposed to be here. Get out.
Mm. And it was also you listening to it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yep. And then you
Because
feel like
sorry, no, you go.
then you feel like you're just, you're faced by looking at this desert, and you have no map. And you have no camel, and you have no water. And you're like, what am I doing here? Well, you just put one foot in front of the other and you keep going.
Oh, that's amazing. But those are the beautiful moments where amazing things get created, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
It's like harvesting the the beautiful things out of the bad. I don't like calling them bad things, because even though it might seem negative in that moment,
Yeah.
but there's always, we have a saying in Spanish that says, no hay mal que por bien no venga. There's nothing bad that doesn't come because of something good.
Uh-huh.
Or how do you, I hope I'm translating
Nothing
it
good.
properly, but
Nothing
basically,
good. Yeah.
yeah, basically it's something that seems bad happens because something good wants to come, wants
Sure.
to find its space.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's about letting go of something to make room for something new, right?
It's the upheaval. It needs to come out so that it can be looked at. And once it's got this voice, once you've given it a voice by even just acknowledging it's like dissipates. It's just something that wants to be seen. I recently, I think last week, I posted something on Instagram, and it's got an arrow. It's an image of an arrow, and it talks about how the words talk about how if you're gonna whatever it's called, if you're gonna shoot an arrow, you have to pull the bow back, right? You got to pull it back so that it can go forward. And I think this whole life, I mean, I'm in Minneapolis, where we've got riots 30 minutes from me. And I was thinking about that in the last several days, about that, all of that anger. This is almost like the universal anger. It's not just Minneapolis. It's like, whoa, it's got to come out. And so it's ugly. It's ugly. I looked at my weather app this morning, and it said smoke. My city, smoke. I'm a half hour away.
Mm.
So it's like, wow, it's a huge thing that's happening, and it's not just that little area on the map. It's a universal message that people are fed up. They're fed up
Yeah.
with all kinds of things, you know. So, and I don't think our younger generation, they're not gonna be so quiet. I don't like the violence, but they're not putting up with stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel that we've already got a taste of it with Greta Thunberg,
Oh
because I
yeah.
think she's definitely not quiet. She managed to get a whole generation to walk on the streets for so long, and they're still doing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we're going to have amazing young people changing the world. I think
Well,
that's
that's
going
why
to
they
be
came.
beautiful. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's like you said, for me, I always compare it to pimples. It's like a pimple. It needs to come out.
The
It's
eruption.
ugly, but then you can get rid of it, right? And and I think that's what's happening right now, because the thing is that it's not that we're having more bad things happening. It's still the same amount of bad things happening, or not nice things happening around the world. But now it's like more people speak up, more people, like you said, they're so angry, they're fed up, they just don't want to be doing it anymore. And so everybody's talking about it, and it might feel not negative, but like you said, no violence is always, like, I
Yeah.
don't know, it's nicer to let's talk about it. We can talk all. But the change is amazing. It's what's coming, and it just, I think it's what had to happen. It's been waiting for it for such a long
Oh
time,
yeah.
right?
Great. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And on the other hand, one of the things that I've noticed is that because of this break that we've got in the past couple of months with all the situation, is also that so many people have had the chance to actually go inside,
Yeah.
like deep inside into ourselves, into our own strength, and see what wants to
Right. So yeah, you're right. We get to
live, and like you
choose.
said, see
Mhm.
those patterns where yeah.
Yeah. So we get to choose who we want to be. It's literally a redefining moment if we want to do that. How did we spend our time? I mean, really, I have been working from home for 20 some years. And the only thing that's really changed for me is the quote inability to go out, or when I do go out, if I'm going to go to the grocery store, it's gotta look a certain way, which is really radically different, and it's far more stressful. And you don't just go to the store for a rotisserie chicken anymore. At least I don't. That's a lot of work. If I want to go do that, I'm going to buy other food. But that's the only thing that's really changed is if I'm going into public, how am I doing that? But for a lot of other people, I mean, think about the parents and who are they're all of a sudden, not only are they working from home, they got kids to do the school thing with, and that's not in their wheelhouse. And so they really have to decide, not even have to, they're being forced to decide how they spend their time. Like, do I really want to binge watch XYZ show over the weekend, or do I want to go spend time with my kids? Well, there's a park real close by to me, and I've been here, this is my 21st year in this house. And there's like I said, a large park. And early on this whole thing, there was a family of a mom, dad, and two kids. And they were playing like their own version of some kind of fun, I don't know what it was, soccer, foot, I don't know. And it was just so delightful to watch them, and just to watch them play. They were playing with their kids outside on a Saturday morning or whatever it was. I think it was a weekend. And then I walked around, and then as I was coming back, they were going home. And I said, like, where have you been for the last 20 years? And they said, at home. So like, like, I've been coming
Oh my
here for
God,
20
yeah.
years, and you're at home, probably on your electronics or, and now all of a sudden, because you can't really do what you quote want to do, you're at the park. So again, we're redefining what's really important to us. Going to the park and playing with our kids. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's what's really important.
Yeah, and I also think even for the people that don't have kids, it's also the same. It's like, do I want to stay in and just, be there for weeks and weeks, or do I want to take a moment to have a walk outside now that we can? I don't know. It's different depending on what country you're in, but
Yeah.
um, I think we're, like you said, we're redefining our human connections also, because there's been, I remember, especially because some of you know that I have also German clients and have a lot of work in Germany as well. And in Germany, I've always realized that somehow there's always been like a distance to internet. They also use it, all of them, and most of them have to do it for work, but there's always been like a distance to it. And now it's like I'm hearing of so many people using Zoom, using Google Hangouts, using all those apps. It's like, oh my God, it's so cool. I remember when I had, because I have a membership site and they're already used to that I travel. So they're like, oh my God, and we're using this thing to be connected to halfway around the world with you on the other side, right? And it's, and I'm so grateful that, for example, that's one of the things that I find in this time especially, people have noticed to change that, to change their
Mhm.
human connections, that to realize, because I think it's still beautiful to meet up in person, right? That's
Oh,
something
of
that we're never
course.
gonna, that's just
Yeah.
amazing. But for those cases where you can't, I mean, I'm talking to friends that I usually never talk to when I'm traveling, but because now everybody's getting more used to video chatting with everybody, it's like, oh my God, they're taking the time to actually do it. And
Yeah.
instead of going to a bar together, I'm gonna have a meetup with my friends on Saturday online.
Yeah.
Everybody in their home, and we're meeting together, right?
Yeah.
Um, and like you said, but I think also the connections together are being redefined. Like we did, like you said, like with this family, what do
Hmm.
we want to do? What do we want to get out of this? And especially if the parents are doing homeschooling, they have to become creative like teachers, right?
Exactly. And there's so I'm a huge believer in what they teach in the schools. Are the curriculum is fine, but it's like all the really important life skills is what there's no budget for. you know i
Yeah.
I want my kid to know how to thread a needle. I want my kid to know how to do something really basic, like what, even I have a sewing machine, and I've had it since I was in high school, and I sew very seldom. I say I can sew a straight line. I don't want anything fancy, no buttonholes, no zippers. And I took it out to make some masks, and I was really honestly amazed that I remembered how to thread a bobbin. And it was literally like, right, it was like, oh, I know how to do this. But other people who never took the sewing class with a school sewing machine they wouldn't know what on earth to do. Like, what's a bobbin? you know a basic
Yeah.
skills. And it's so important. It's so important to have those basic skills.
Yeah, or just to, being creative. That, I think that should be a something that they learn in school as well.
Well, the arts, well, that's what I mean, is like all the classes that really are life skills, right?
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
I will confess, I don't know how many people are going to watch this, but I will confess that math was not my strong suit, and I could not understand fractions to save my soul. And I when I went after high school, I went to a 2-year college, and then I took a break, and then I went back to complete my 4-year degree. But my math skills were so bad, I had to take like high school math. I had to take math 90 at this private school, which was very expensive. And it was a interestingly, private Catholic school, but very high reputation. And it took a nun standing in front of a bunch of ladies, because this was weekend college before it became cool. And she was talking about fractions. And when she said, just think of all your fractions as if you're baking a cake. And it was like this neon light went on. And I went, oh, like, why couldn't someone have told me that back in high school? Like, hello. It took a nun standing in this expensive school to tell me that. And I got it. And I did hire a private tutor.
Yeah, but and that's exactly what I'm saying. It's like I feel that it's so regulated that there's no space for creativity to actually try to learn something in a different way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To see that maybe a little bit more playful with a little different things, like, I don't know, having this open mind to get things into our heads in a different way, because I know there's people that react to logic, and you're good, if you explain things logically, then they learn that. But then there's the creative people that need this creative way, like you, for example, with that example, I love it because it's like, yeah, you have that cake, and it visualizes completely different, and it's, oh my God, it gives you a complete different understanding of what
Right.
you're supposed to learn, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that it's the same thing. This example that we're talking about is the same thing as my quandary when my marriage died. The same thing. I was taught this and it's not working. I'm trying to learn this, it's not working. What's the different perspective? How can I look at it differently to achieve a different
Yes,
result?
I love that. Yeah. And that always comes down to, how do I define something, right? How do I define certain things? And if
You're frozen. Hello.
there, right?
You were frozen for a while. I don't know what you said.
Oh, okay. No, don't worry. It was just more about how we define things sometimes too hard, and we want to have, this belongs into this box and this belongs into this box. And if I don't have a colored box and I only have black and white, what am I going to do with green, right? So
Yeah.
if we're open to this whole range of things, it just makes it better.
Right. That's what I strive for, is looking at something with a different perspective. And when I encounter people who think with such a myopic mind, I'm this. I can't even relate to that anymore. I can't. It's painful.
Yeah.
It's very painful that, just because, it's almost like just because the internet says it, it makes it true. No. You may use discernment and make your own opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Oh, Lord
You can
Jesus.
just, yeah. Yeah, which is basically, because sometimes we read with our head and sometimes we read with our heart, and I think it's a good thing to get a mix of both, a good straight line between head and heart.
Yeah.
To define certain things for ourselves. That's like, I think that's like the best thing, because if only one defines, then they're so, like, if we're doing it from our heart, sometimes it's too emotional, and then if we're doing just from our brains or head, or how do you call it, the mind, it's just from that, like we said, like the black and white box, right? And if both of them work together, we have the whole spectrum of the rainbow.
Well, and that's the whole thing about aligning the head and the heart. When you're in alignment, there's alignment, there's balance, there's more, I would say, clear vision, because you're looking at it there we are again, in a holistic manner, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at something holistically.
Exactly.
Keep coming back. There's a reason I have a group called a Holistic Gathering Place. Oh.
Maybe that's a good point right now to go in there, because I wanted to ask you, like, what kind of people come to you? What do I have to look like? What should be my situation if I want to have your help, or if I want to come and work with you?
Well, there's no white or black or green box. It's really, my opinion is, it's heart driven. It's someone who's fed up with some result, right? Like, like what? Like they feel physically gross, that like something's wrong and they don't know why. They don't have any notion that what they eat impacts how they feel, and how they feel impacts how they do life. There's a disconnect. And that's really common. I think that having the awareness of, I just drank, whatever, I have water here. I just drank water. And when I drink that, it feels like this. If I drink wine, this is how it feels. It goes to my head. I have a brain injury, so I can feel it in my head right away. They don't make connections like that. And it's not something that you train for. It's just an awareness. Like somebody was saying something, I don't remember what it was, but they were feeling this. They were feeling whatever that was. And I said, well, what have you just recently ate or eaten? Probably that's the right word, eaten. And they couldn't make any connection. So the awareness is, well, next time what did you have for lunch? Well, next time you have that, maybe look at, right? So sometimes it's, I don't feel like, my body feels whatever, it's either screaming at you because you're in pain somewhere, or you're just lethargic. But it could also be nothing to do with your physical body. You're just miserable. You're just miserable.
Yeah.
Going into your life, whatever your work is, or you're just unhappy. So a lot, like I was unhappy with my divorce, with my thing. So that's what precipitated this whole awakening period. I wrote a book, and the interesting thing is I'm still learning how it helps people. And it's a book, Living with Grace, and it's a play on words because it's about my cat named Grace, but it's also about Grace. And Grace died, so the book is about her journey through the whole death process. And so it's like this multi-layered work that talks about animals, the importance of their soul and their own journey, and animal communication, and the whole dying process. And it was just released a few months back, and I was wondering, how would someone who is dying, or how would someone who has a family member who has died or is dying, how would they respond to this? Would it minister to them? That was my honest question. I actually asked some people who had recently lost someone in their family, or they knew of like death doulas. I don't know where in the world you listeners might be, but it's a thing that's coming up here in the United States where death doulas are big. And unfortunately, my ex-husband, interestingly, how this all started, right? It's come full circle in that my whole awakening began with the death of that marriage. But we have a child, so we don't, the divorce was us. It had nothing to do with Elizabeth. And so, after a while, we just, it was always about her. It was always about, it doesn't matter what's happened. We're good. And he was suddenly sudden, you know, I know it's not suddenly, but was suddenly,
Mm.
for lack of a better way to describe it. I don't know. But to make the long story short, is he had a very whirlwind diagnosis, and 13 days later, the man was dead. It was
Mm.
horrible. It was horrible. And I am watching myself as like I was up here and I'm watching myself in this life. I'm like, this book, dude, this book is relevant. Now I know that it's relevant for people who are in that same process. In fact, my former sister-in-law was there, and I had the book. He'd never read it. He never read it. I told him he could talk to Grace about it instead, because of course she's passed too. So I had the book there, and we were going to read it out loud, and then he went into a coma. So that didn't happen. So I just gave it to her, and you know, this is relevant. This is relevant to people who are in that death process. And I felt like I was midwifing him into a new life. Literally, the closer he came to dying, the more awake he became. I was watching it. I was watching his awakening. It was so profound, incredible. So that comes in. I have a real heart now for those that are in that loss. And I'm not actually, I don't know how it's all going to play out in terms of how it's going to kind of shift into my business. I mean, the book is part of what I do. And you know, I had a whole bunch of events scheduled that have all been canceled. So I'm not sure how everything's going to go down, but I know that it's important for pet owners who have to put their animals down. It's a great book for that, because her perspective is not just the perspective of a cat. It's the perspective of an animal, a pet, but also the soul. And I had the wherewithal to know that this wasn't about me putting her and me out of our misery. It was about, are you ready? Because if you're ready, then let's do this. Right? So that was a long answer. Did I answer your question?
No, we're going to go deeper into that as well. No, because I think your book is relevant in a way to everybody that has to deal with letting go of something.
And that's
right?
true
And
too. Yes, there's a whole chapter on letting go. Of course.
Exactly. That's why I like that you actually called the end of your marriage, not the death of your marriage. Because that's how sometimes it is, right? When we make space for something, is realizing that something else is dead. It's already gone.
Yeah. Well,
so
yeah.
Right.
Right.
So I think because we also have a grieving process or mourning process. I don't know, whichever you prefer. But for it's not just when somebody actually dies and we have to. I mean, if we have, the thing is with death, we have that ritual of bringing that person to the cemetery, you know, and putting them in a grave. But we don't have that with marriage, friendships, you know, even jobs. When we finally realize this job has to go, and I need to move on, that's also a situation. But for those things, we don't have a ritual for it.
But you know, that's a really interesting thing you bring that up, because there isn't for the ending of a marriage, right? The dissolution of the marriage. But I know that I bought some kit thing. I bought two actually, and a friend of mine came over and we made masks. like, and it was, you needed the other person to actually do it, right? And then I had to lay there with this plaster stuff on me. And then once I don't remember the details because it's been a long time, but so they made this mask, and then you took it off, and then it had to lay and dry for this long, and then I painted it. And because of John's death, I'm the one right now that I'm going through the house because of COVID. We haven't been able to congregate there, right? And I'm whatever, 20-25 minutes away. So I've been going up there once a week, and oh my God, all the things that need to find a home, and or not. But the point is I'm going through my things to make room for other things. And I just saw the mask and was reminded, like, oh wow, what should I do with that? And now this conversation makes me want to go and like actually look at it and like, what should I do with that? Because I think it's a beautiful thing that, yes, our marriage, the marriage died, but our relationship didn't end, right? It didn't end. And I was there until the end. And that was a gift.
And that's also beautiful to see it in a way also with people that pass on. I have to say the Hawaiians always like to say they changed the address because they don't like seeing it as something final. So they just change address. They go to a different place, right?
Yes.
And I like that you said that your marriage died, but your relationship didn't die. And I think it's the same thing right now. He might not be here in a physical form, but you still have sort of a relationship with him.
Yes.
And or maybe for your daughter as the ancestor, right? We have realizing all those energy things that we have around us, the spirit guides that are with us, because all our ancestors, they might not be here, they might die, they might have, or maybe recently died, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to be in our lives, because they've impacted our lives in so many ways, and they're always going to be there to either help us, guide us, teach us in whatever way we have, right?
Exactly.
So we never lose that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And I think that's why I think that book could also be, like it doesn't have to be someone physically dying, which I understand is very important, because I think that we live in societies where death is something so heavy, right? That's why I always love using the Hawaiian words, because it's more like realizing, hey, it's not final. There's something else after that. But I feel that our societies I don't know if we've lost it, but somehow it's something death is very, very final, very strong, very heavy. And
well,
for
it's
us
the
to let go of
mindset,
something.
right? It goes back to earlier, like we've always we've always been taught that it's, you're in this casket. Well,
exactly.
he blew the whole thing in that his family, they were the community's, they owned the community's funeral home. And when he said he wanted to be cremated, both my daughter and I looked at each other and we almost fell over, like, whoa, what? Okay. I was shocked that because that's breaking the mold. That's really okay. Works for me. So yeah, and he started it. I'm just getting this now too. Is he started doing things differently. With that request, I thought I might have a little backlash from the family, but they were so amenable to that, and it's like, wow, cool.
Oh, that's so
cool.
nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we got your book definitely out there. Whoever needs it, feels that they have that need with their pets, with their animals, with death coming into their lives. I know that that's a part in some parts of the world, especially now with the whole COVID situation, but also in general. And you have your program where people come and work with you. You do that online as well, right?
I have an online community. Yes, it's called Journey to Grace, taken from the book, because I have a whole section called Journey to Grace, which is like the stages, we talk about the stages of various things. And I didn't know how else to do it. And kind of Grace was like, well, let's just do it this way. And so that's what I did. And I have a community called Holistic Gathering Place, which is all about very generic on holistic, well, of course, with my expertise on the things I love. But I do work with people who are ready to transform and take charge of their life. And what happens is that these people that come to me, they're ready to work with me and my gifts. I might not be the perfect person for you, but if I am, it's just something, it's just like, what you know, and you walk away from our work with a sense of hope and balance. And I think hope and balance, they give you a sense of confidence, the confidence to, even if the confidence is, I can get through this day. And to get a mindset of, I can get through the day, because some days you don't even want to get out of bed, and if you can do that, find a little bit of hope and a little bit of confidence together and feel like you're on steady ground, yeah, that's great. And I bring the sacred into everything I do. It's just who I am. I'm very strong in seeing the gift. Sometimes you wonder with what's happening right now. But there is we talked about that earlier too. There is a gift in everything. It's just a matter of getting out of the mindset of, I've always done it this way. It's got to go in this box or that box. And if it's a circle, it can't fit. That doesn't work anymore. We're blowing that all up. Sometimes literally half hour from me, it doesn't work. Yeah. So yeah, I welcome you. If you feel inspired to reach out to me and feel like there's something there for us to explore, reach out to me and we'll do that. Absolutely.
Yes, and I'm going to put all the links underneath the video if you're watching on the video, and if you're listening on the podcast, you'll have everything in the show notes where you can find Marita and with all her work, her book also. So we're going to put everything in there, in the Facebook groups as well. So thank you, Marita, so much. It was so amazing to talk to you. It was really, really, I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Well, it was very nice to be asked. I would like to offer one free gift to your listeners if I could. Yes. Grace and I have put together what is really beautifully called Grace Notes. They're very short. I'm a big fan of not superfluous words and very short little bite emails that come every 3 days. And we call them Grace Notes. Many of them are little tiny snippets taken from the book, and others are just wisdom, Grace's wisdom coming through. So I'm the scribe for her words. And if those interest you, super supportive. And again, nominal words. I don't like getting emails that are 3 paragraphs. I don't want to read 3 paragraphs. I just want to read a couple sentences. So
perfect. And you're going to give me the link for them to sign up to.
I am. Yes, I am. You're frozen again. Hello. You got frozen again.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We're having rainy season right now, and the internet has ups and downs every now and then.
Okay.
Yeah, but the recording is being done in the cloud, so that should be still work fine.
Good, good, okay.
Hopefully. I'll check it before I put it online, so if you guys probably hear the good version of it. Thank you, Marita, so much. And we're just going to put the link of everything underneath so you guys can have it, get the grace notes, really beautiful inspiration for during the week for our day-to-day. And yeah, thank you too for listening. And I hope you liked it again. I'm looking forward to some more. And thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you. Thank you, Marita.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.